So like even if the top 1% of USAID programs are like really, really good, even if they do a bunch of other stuff you don't like, it seems like this really, really good thing they do could outweigh the other bad programs.
I couldn't find that. When I did the research, I can't find anything good. I mean, I see where things are
PEPFAR, easy, PEPFAR. There are, IRS tax cuts. People believe that they are more likely to get away with cheating. That means more people cheat, so you reduce the voluntary compliance rate. And by the way, that causes a vicious cycle, because if there's more people cheating, that means everyone else now has a higher chance of getting away with their cheating, because the IRS is already strained trying to catch the current cheaters.
So let's just say that you made enough money that the federal government taxed you $250,000 in a year. Would you be happy to write that check?
If you want to see more content like this, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing. It really helps with the algorithm. And make sure to check out the Discord and other social links in the description. Okay, so I have a question for Grid. And
okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because it's such an absurd statement that I feel like I might have misheard it. Did you say that you don't find it plausible that if we cut IRS funding, that they would potentially collect less in tax revenue?
It's also not taking into account all of the potential costs that Doge is bringing us, like gutting the IRS, which reduces our ability to collect taxes, or the paying the employees for administrative leave.
You seriously think that decreasing the number of IRS agents reduces our ability to collect taxes? You firmly believe that? You're going to die on that hill?
Probably necessarily, yeah.
Okay, well, that's insane.
Like what?
Yeah, actually, that's not what I said. What I said is that you couldn't prove to me by cutting a large percentage of IRS that we would not actually see an increase in efficiency. You can't prove to me that we wouldn't do that.
I'm pretty sure. By prove? Well, I'm pretty sure verbatim you said that because I brought up, cutting the IRS workforce is going to reduce our ability to collect taxes, and you rejected that.
Yeah, because we don't have people going door to door to collect taxes. We haven't for like 20 fucking years. I mean, that doesn't happen.
Wait, part of a reason why that is, though, is because we have such a high voluntary compliance rate, because people know that if they try to cheat on their taxes,
that's not an argument against
specific ones that they want.
Could I finish my argument?
I love it when people make my argument please, for me. One at a time.
We do know the throughput of the IRS, though, right?
Go ahead, Nonfon. I want you to finish it.
Go Nonfon.
Yeah, so if there are, IRS tax cuts, people believe that they are more likely to get away with cheating. That means more people cheat, so you reduce the voluntary compliance rate. And by the way, that causes a vicious cycle, because if there's more people cheating, that means everyone else now has a higher chance of getting away with their cheating, because the IRS is already strained trying to catch the current cheaters. And you don't capture a lot of revenue because of the voluntary compliance. And we do have empirical estimates.
Hold on. Don't dish me out the way. Okay. A little bit. Come on back. Right. So let's break that down a little bit, Nonfon, because you're onto something, but I don't think it's going where you think it's going to go. First of all, absolutely, sure, people are going to cheat at their taxes. I don't believe that just because there are less physical employees at the IRS, that more people are going to feel emboldened to cheat on their taxes than did before. That's like saying by having less. By putting more cops on the street, more people are less likely to do crime, and that is factually inaccurate. We know, we have the studies to prove that. So that's really, come on, man, you're better than that.
But I have studies that show that voluntary compliance does drop when you
guys calm down. The second thing, because I got it, you went to town there. The second thing is that even if they are going to cheat on their taxes, we don't have people manually inspecting these tax forms anyway. It's a computer that does it and spits it out and hands it off to somebody, which by the way, that those people are so, like, I wouldn't say bored, but they have so little to do. They're literally prosecuting people for no reason. I myself have had dealings with the IRS where they cost me a shit ton of money to prove that I didn't do the thing that they said I did. And so you will never be able to convince me that the IRS is even a viable agency. It is literally the worst agency.
Grid, I got to ask you something.
Okay.
I got to ask you something. So if you have a subjective opinion about a government agency that's responsible for collecting however many hundreds of billion or trillions in dollars a year from multiple different types of individuals and tax entities, or corporate entities, and regulating all this. So is there a difference? I'll just ask it this way. Is there a difference between, say, someone like you and Senator Bernie Sanders or Barack Obama?
What?
What's the what? What was incoherent?
Well, first of all, subjective. Literally, most of my opinions about the IRS are going to be subjective, so I'm not really sure what you were.
Okay, that's cool. That's it. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Wait, I mean,
show. My bad.
Well, I mean,
didn't understand it either.
One thing I would want to
quick, if Grid's whole thing is like, oh, I can't prove that, if we cut the IRS spending, the government's not going to somehow imagine.
You're asking about his opinion.
What's your definition of prove? It's weird when he's saying like my entire opinion on the IRS is subjective based on my personal experience.
That's
but like
how
somehow,
opinions
which
work.
I how I do have studies that I can show you that show that like
opinions tend to work.
Well, I mean,
I don't base my opinion on the IRS based on my experience with the IRS.
Okay,
I
great.
base my opinion on the IRS based on the data, based on the studies. I can show you that cutting IRS
You should.
does
I mean,
actually reduce voluntary compliance.
I am certainly fucking glad that Nonfon is absolutely not basing his opinion on the IRS on subjectiveness.
Well,
Generally speaking, if you cut half the employees from a company, it does not do better. Generally speaking, that holds true. Yeah.
Well, real quick. So
Yeah,
the thing I want to point out is that there's a memo going. There's a memo going around the IRS saying that there's going to be high-level cuts for taxpayer compliance employees. So I don't know like what else they would like. The employees are literally dedicated to taxpayer compliance. So if we're cutting those employees, then we're probably not going to have as much compliance with tax laws. That's just like necessarily A follows B.
No, it's not.
And then the second thing is that like
it's
it's fine if you want to base your opinions on a particular thing based off of your personal experience. That's chill. But I mean, don't use that experience to argue against somebody who's coming with like data or facts or like
nobody's giving
provable things
or facts. It is, however, a fact that corporations spend millions of dollars a year on efficiency experts to reduce their workforce and enhance efficiency. They don't hire more people. They reduce the number of people and make sure that the jobs assigned get done. And this is what our government needs. We don't need to throw manpower at it. We need efficiency. We need people to understand their fucking
Where is the
job.
government wasteful or inefficient? Wait, I have an honest question.
Can I just finish up on the IRS real quick? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good.
So, can we both agree, hopefully we can, that if we're firing high levels of tax compliance employees within the IRS, that tax compliance is probably going to go down or no?
No,
I can't. I mean, I can't prove that one way or the other, and I don't think you can
realize studies are not real life, and data is not.
I mean, you can throw it.
Those numbers are data.
You're not going to my mind.
It just doesn't follow that less employees. It doesn't change the penalty of any of the things. So if you get your numbers wrong,
less than an ability to audit people.
Hold on.
So
And
we're just getting there, guys. Hop on over. It's going to be a good show. I promise.
So the one more question. I'm sorry. So I mean, I feel like this is super applicable. Like, if we were to fire like 80% of the police officers, would you not expect crime rates to go up?
Do you know how crime rates are tabulated?
An efficiency expert is not going to change.
You literally asked me, would they go up? I'm asking you, do you know how they're tabulated?
That's not an answer.
I'll give you an answer. Yes, it would, but it's not the same thing.
Okay.
It's a bad analogy.
Do you understand how they're tabulated?
You need an officer to make an arrest. You can multiple people.
It doesn't mean crime
So if we
went
get
up.
rid of the tax compliance people from the IRS, then who's going to enforce tax compliance?
The ones that stay. The point is, there's too many already.
Okay, well then the cops that stay.
No. Hold on, stop. Pause, as my buddy Fabian Liberty says. Pause. Fucking idiot. Dude, the crime rate is tabulated by the number of crimes reported and nothing else. Not how many people are caught, not by actual crime, not by convictions, strictly the number of people who say a crime has been committed. That's the crime
So,
rate.
I-
That's why
I
it's
just
the
asked-
worst.
I just asked a
with what he's saying.
hypothetical. All
Because
right, I
you
just asked a
understand what he's
hypothetical. I don't need
Yeah,
to.
you
We
understand-
don't need
you
to get
understand
into
what's
the
being asked.
hyper specific things. Yeah.
But your hypothetical is a flawed hypothetical.
Sure, fine. But even so, it still doesn't make the point because you need an officer to make an arrest where that officer is doing the arrest. You can't make any other arrest, and that's not the case with an IRS agent. I don't even know
Right.
exactly
20%
how it works, but I know that you can't. It's not just
Wouldn't
one
the-
person.
Wouldn't the
to every
20% of the
American.
offers? Wouldn't the 20% of the officers left behind also just enforce the law? Why would we need the 80% that we laid off?
No, because then they will, while the 20% are doing arresting, then all the other people who are doing crimes don't have anybody there. That is not the same
Yeah,
with
that's the
IRS.
whole point.
It's
outline.
not the
Yeah,
same
thank
thing.
you.
Is the point? That's the point. It's a bad analogy.
Okay. I think
A
that was
police
a
officer
bad
and an
analogy.
IRS
If people
officer
think
are
they're-
not the
if
same
people-
thing.
I think
It's a
that was a
different
perfect
job.
analogy, but all right.
Hold on.
So
hold on.
maybe I can make the same point with the budget, right? Because we know that the IRS has the throughput of whenever we put in $1 for auditing or enforcement, we get like 5 to 7 times back. So maybe through that kind of budgetary means, we can show you that if you were to cut IRS people, which that's all the money for the IRS goes to is just people, right? If you cut that, then it would get less, like just by its own throughput of money.
It's so amazing that like suddenly the IRS comes up and you're magically thinking like a Democrat now. I don't know how that transfiguration like took place, but it's
Wait, what?
like
Did
bravo.
you think
Yeah,
I
he
was
is
a
a
Republican or
Democrat.
something?
He is a Democrat.
He is.
Yeah,
Dude, I'm an atheist
that's
liberal. What are you talking about?
I'm out of it.
My arm would fall off if I voted for a Republican. Okay.
Oops. That's my.
Oh, man.
I'm sure that's what
Oh
they'd be
man! All right, well, hold on. I'll answer that. Some of the IRS. So sure, the reason, but it can be argued, and I think successfully, that the reason that you get such high throughput, if you will, from the IRS is because people don't fight the IRS as much as they should because it costs thousands upon thousands of dollars, and people will just pay. I'm
agree.
that myself. As a matter of fact, I've spent every year. I left California in 2017. Every fucking year, I still get a bill from them for a property, and I've called the tax guy up and said, "Look, not only did I never own it, I rented it. Not only that, but it's a parking lot now. There's no fucking building there. It's a parking lot." And he's like, "Yeah, I know. I drive by there. I still have to send this out."
I gotta go.
Don't talk
I gotta
to me
go.
about
I appreciate
fucking
you all.
government efficiency.
Hold on.
This is the dumbest shit
Let him
ever.
let him make his exit, please. Go ahead, Renaud.
Yeah, I gotta go. I'm sick, so I gotta go to bed. I appreciate you letting me on. I appreciate you hosting. I appreciate Grid you coming on. I appreciate Classy you putting
Hey,
me
no
in
hard
contact
feelings,
and
by the
being
way.
my partner. No, it's never hard feelings.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, Nonfon's the goat.
True.
And thank you, Rinyald. And any of my mods could drop his link in the chat. That would be very helpful as well. And Ticky
I'm not
Tack.
much longer for the world, so if anybody wants to try and pick on me, bring it now because I gotta.
See where
All
we
right,
are.
Grid. USAID. Since you don't have much time, okay?
I'm picking on USAID because that's Trump went in and Trump and Elon went in and basically demolished the organization because it was so bad. Yeah. Let's go.
I will.
USAID.
I'll do more reading on USAID someday. But what I think is great about USAID is that the best programs it does are like way more effective than like the average and median program. So like even if the top 1% of USAID programs are like really good, even if they do a bunch of other stuff you don't like, it seems like this really good thing they do could outweigh the other bad programs.
I couldn't find that when I did the research. When I looked into the research, they've been investigated multiple times by multiple agencies in congressional hearing after congressional hearing. I can't find anything good. I mean, I see where things are
PEPFAR, easy PEPFAR. It's like the easiest. Like PEPFAR has saved probably 20 million lives.
All the starving kids and shit.
Food aid, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something another. Sure, okay, but the amount of fraud, the amount of
you would agree saving 20 million lives is a really good thing, right? Like, that is a really good thing.
I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear you because I was talking.
You would agree saving 20 million lives is like just a really good thing, right?
Is it strictly because USAID?
It basically, yeah, that's one of their biggest programs.
No. Is it strictly because of USAID? Is there no other program that now that USAID doesn't exist, are now 20 million people going to die?
Potentially, yes. Actually, I think the estimates it depends on how you estimate it. But I think from PEPFAR alone, yeah, I think it's actually 25 million could die in the next 15 years. I think is one estimate.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because people don't have access to PEPFAR, which stops a lot of babies from getting AIDS.
In where?
In developing countries where they don't have access to HIV medication. It's really expensive.
Where we don't know that the money's actually ever spent, right?
We do know that it's. What do you mean? We absolutely do know that it's spent.
Because USAID, literally, in all of these programs, they always get caught saying they spent 20 million, 15 million, 30 million, 100 million. They always get caught with unaccounted for funds. And I gotta tell you, the organization USAID was just terrible, absolutely terrible. Right. And there is more evidence that it was a CIA slush fund account. There's more evidence for that than anything else, and you won't even talk about that.
I don't know how you live with yourself.
Wait, hold on. I can't talk about that.
Wait,
so
one second.
You're going too hard, buddy.
Go ahead, Nonfon.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah. So
Blink,
Blink,
you're scaring me.
So I mean, it seems like I think people greatly exaggerate the extent to which USAID was like a CIA front, but there were some things that USAID did, especially during the Cold War, that were like bad or were like trying to subtly subvert like communists and like I understand if you're not an interventionist, which I know you aren't, you might not like that. But
I don't like anything
20
about
million lives. It's just like
3 million from malaria alone. They expected to die.
Yeah, the State Department does way more of what Grid's talking about than USAID, like the State Department itself, right?
And I have problems with all. I have problems with all of it. It's not like I limit myself to just USAID.
Okay, great. I wanted to point out earlier because you complained about the IRS and having to pay money for their services, whether or not you agree with the services.
I did not say that. I said I have a problem with when they file frivolous lawsuits against people for no damn good reason, and people have to defend themselves in court at their expense, which is never repaid. You have no recourse. Okay. So if you hold on, stop.
I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Bro. I'm sorry, I got it wrong.
You ask me a question, you get the full answer. So in this country, and you can do a bunch of research on this, it's out there, it's readily available. A lot, and I mean a lot of IRS cases where they are investigating tax fraud target people that they know will not fight them in court because they can't. They don't have the money to. And so they roll over and they pay, or they get their assets seized or whatever. And it is a horrible, horrible way to do business. And it's absolutely anti-American is what it is.
I do need to finish my question though. And I'm sorry I got your point initially wrong. I was just trying to be brief. My point that it's more of a point than a question, but it is something I'm hoping you'll respond to. Sorry, is that what you're experiencing is the sacrifice of the microeconomic good for the macroeconomic good, right?
And that's bullshit. Come on, you're an idiot. Don't throw that out there.
Let her finish the thought.
Because you complained about us not knowing where funds go with USAID, we need to keep track of this money, right? And that's what the IRS is here to do. The macroeconomic good is that when we keep track of the money.
Canadian.
I don't understand. I'd like her to continue and finish so I can understand.
The IRS does not do that.
The macroeconomic good, or the good for the system, is more important for the well-being of the nation than your personal well-being and microeconomic good. So I think that's why you sometimes see this as something that's just existing to persecute you, just like how it would also probably seem like to the people who are applying aid in Africa, like persecution, if they had to pay for tracking the USAID's expenses.
I'm not sure where in any of that rambling nonsense there was an actual point, but I'm going to.
No, I restated.
I had to stop and let you talk, so you're going to stop and let me talk. So
no, you're just being bad faith, though, because I restated that it wasn't really a question.
Well, it doesn't matter. You made a point, I'll make a point. None of the things that you said actually apply to what the IRS actually does. And macro is irrelevant when we're talking about literally. The question was the throughput, and the reason behind the throughput for the IRS largely is going after citizens, taxpayers, assets when they believe that there's some sort of issue with their taxes. And most people can't fight it. They're not going after people like Donald Trump. They're not going after people like Jeff Bezos.
You would prefer they do,
Those
though.
people have very good attorneys, very, very good accountants.
But you would prefer they do.
Rich people are audited more often than poor people, by the way.
I'm interjecting because you have limited time.
Well, let him finish his thought.
No, go ahead and interject.
You would prefer that the IRS does go after the people, because I would agree there, just by the way.
I would actually prefer a flat tax where we don't have to worry about it.
I mean,
I think the IRS is an agency that has a license to steal from citizens.
Well, rich people would love that.
No one's arguing against that shit.
I mean, honestly, I don't know that rich people would love that. Yes, I am classified for whatever stupid reason as rich, and I would fucking love it.
It's probably how much assets and money you got.
I would like to.
Well, okay. Also, I mean, just from like, I don't know, a cursory Google glance, I can it seems like rich people are audited more often than poor people. It doesn't seem like the IRS is targeting.
That wasn't
just targeting poor people. Seems like they go after rich people more often.
Are you? I'm sorry, I didn't get to see the whole debate. But are you guys under the impression that we should just leave all of that alone and there's no waste, fraud, or abuse?
No, I don't think anyone is arguing that. And what is all that, by the way? Is all that the IRS?
No, wait. Oh, yeah, no. Just whatever Doge is the general what Doge is doing. Are you saying? I was asking. Are you saying that we don't need Doge
doing
at
it
all?
in a way that shows they don't care about what they're saying?
I would say, where is the fraud and abuse?
Has everybody just become retarded tonight? I mean, it's been one person talking over another.
So let's just say and I'm going to pick on you for a second, Nonfon, because you still got a lot of life to live, right? So let's just say that you made enough money that the federal government taxed you $250,000 in a year. Would you be happy to write that check?
I mean, I don't know how much money you have to make that in order to pay that much in taxes.
$750,000.
I would say, I wouldn't, no one is happy about paying taxes, but it's kind of separate from the question of whether it's a net good that we tax people.
So if you are good enough at whatever it is you do to make $750,000 a year, you're okay with giving away $250,000.
Well, it's not. So the issue is obviously we're not giving it away. The issue is the point is that the government has that money now and then can spend that money on things that I might really like. And if it's things that I really like, then I probably think it's a net good that it happens. And also, I would also, obviously, I would say the type of taxation matters too, because I don't think we should tax investment and saving. I think we should tax, consumption and resource rents. So obviously the type of taxation matters as well.
That's a really feminine question, by the way, Grid.
I had something. Is my mic better now, Sarah?
Yeah, way better.
I had something to comment from the debate earlier with Grid.
Yeah, man. What you got?
You made some good statements, and I think sometimes naive, but that's just my opinion. But some of the good statements were you can't fire government employees. I was 31 years working in government. We went through 6 audits, and when they come in there and change and fire the positions, all they do is change the name of the job from, we had one called yard captain, and they changed it to counselor. All they did is get rid of that position. It shows, okay, you got rid of all these positions with their salaries. Those people never missed a day of work, changed over, and they were yard captains next. And they did it 5 times while I was in for 31 years. So the same thing, this little fat doughboy Tesla guy, whatever his name is, I can't think of his name now.
Elon.
He ain't going in there and firing nobody. It's an all puppet show, in my opinion. And then the only thing I would say, naive a little bit, you got it right on saying IRS steals money from you. All it does is no. All taxes is theft of your money. Period. IRS just enforces it. That's all.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that taxation is theft at all. I mean, look, man, I've never really liked the idea of paying taxes to start with. When I started making actual money and the amount of money that I pay personally in income tax can employ 3 people in a year, and you expect me to trust that the government is spending that money better than I can? That's insanity.
Is there anyone who believes that we need a bigger government or that we shouldn't shrink the existing government? Do we all agree on that?
No, we
It's
definitely
just-
got.
I mean, it's weird because like my position is going to be we should, like, as a percentage of GDP, I would say we should probably be taxing more. I again just think the type of taxation matters. So I probably want to I think right now we tax like 18% of GDP. I probably want to move that up to 25% or something. But I want to do it in a way that doesn't tax investment and doesn't tax savings like we currently do.
Are you from America?
Grid One has spoken. He says effigy. Let's see, effigy, duck, and dragon can take a break. Bring up the 3 alternates, and then I also have Mo rebuttal.
The house.
I also have Mo rebuttal just popped up backstage, so he's next in line, and then back to the original Melanie, effigy, and duck after that. So if you want Mo up here, please feel free to do what you need to do.
I'll say one more thing to Grid. Grid, you didn't talk about the job changes. They didn't fire anybody. That's why you can't find anybody rehired, because no one was fired and no one was hired. Do you agree with that analogy that went through? I've experienced that. That's just my experience.
Yeah, I mean, look, my parents worked for the government for a little while, and my grandmother and grandfather worked for the government like a large percentage of their life, and I saw it go from like not too bad as a child to being absolutely ridiculous. Like, people just do ridiculously stupid things, and you just can't fire them. And that kind of culture has to go. Like, it just
never will in government. It won't go in government. I
know it's not going to go in government.
Try.
Well, good seeing you, Satch, and Joe Cool. Is always good to see you.
Same.
There's no profit motive in government, so there's no natural force that makes the people involved in the process of government want to do things more efficiently, right? Because they're not going to go out of business if they sit on their hands for a year and don't do anything, right? There's no incentive. And Sarah, I wanted to tell you happy birthday because it's your birthday and you're awesome, and you're, you know, I'm not going to simp for you or whatever, but you don't suck at entertaining people. So
I thought you were an icon, bro. I thought you were a black and white photo. You're freaking me out right
now. That's funny. That's funny. What's up, Dusty?
Thank you, Chairman Hanson.
Hey, Sarah.
You're muted, Flo.
Almost shaved.
Look at him. Yes, this shit all trimmed and shit.
And it wasn't me this time.
Do the balls match the beard?
Whoa.
You've been hanging around us too long, Sarah.
She has. Kurt's matched the Drake there, Dusty.
You already know they do.
Holy hell.
Is your Wi-Fi sucking ball? You know what? Maybe it's your.
How am I now?
Much better.
That's way better.
Much better. Oh my God, that sucked balls.
I had kind of a delay though.
He's been playing with his
nuts. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4,
5, 6, 7,
8.
It's balancing.
Yeah, we got you.
3.1.
I had some programs.
It might also. Yeah, it also might be doing the local recording. If you click on that little dot, because I've allowed that button, you can probably shut that off if you want.
Oh, I'm out of storage space anyway, so.
Yeah.
Sarah, I'll be quick if you let me go.
Oh.
That's what he said.
Yep. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday in person. That's all. I just want to say happy birthday. And also, Grid One, you're a legend. Powder Dusty, you're a legend. Fun, take your autism. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks, Bane Bear. Shout out to Bane Bear. If any of you enjoy stand-up comedy, he has a show that he does that.
That's cool.
Yeah, so yeah, funny guy.
I love
funny
stand-up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
All
sorry I'm got popped on here late. I missed the Doge haters. Before I wanted to engage with them a little bit, but beyond
there's
that,
plenty of them still here.
happy birthday, Sarah!
One of me, one of the debaters is still here.
Okay, so yeah, somebody else take up the mantle. Who hates Doge? I just want to throw a question.
Who hates Doge?
I think it's a great idea.
Hate it. I'm not a fan of it.
I think it's a great idea, but it's targeting fucking who Trump's want targeted.
Okay.
I just don't think that we should have the biggest government contractor ever in the history of the country, the one in charge of it or
But
participating.
he won't be in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
no, I still can't figure out how this is not illegal. It's
Illegal.
such a massive conflict of interest that it's mind-boggling. But
I don't even know if he signed the contract. He would never say he's the head of Doge because then he'd be able to be held liable. I think they just tricked us somehow and had dude in charge.
He's carried as a special government employee. He's unpaid, and he has a 130-day contract. I get commitment. I don't know that there's a contract.
so he got a loophole to be able to do something he shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. Can I hold him accountable? Can I sue him at the end of all of this shit? If he was a government employee, then I should be able to get his personal records right
matter.
now.
He doesn't have to do anything wrong. Just the fact that he is in the position he is a conflict of interest. He could be totally great and do nothing wrong, but the conflict of interest.
Using
Wouldn't
that
you be
logic,
fine?
none of the
So if it was someone else, you'd be fine then?
Congress should be in Congress, right? Because there's all kinds of people with conflicts of interest in Congress. I agree with you, though. We should go to Congress.
I mean, you'd have to be more specific. Most of the people I've brought up the conflict of interest to have said things like, "Yeah, but Nancy Pelosi makes money too," and I'm saying, "Well, I understand Nancy Pelosi is corrupt, but a conflict of interest is different from corruption, right?" So, I don't know. There probably is a bunch of conflicts of interest. I don't.
Yeah, there's more.
If it was not Elon
of interest in a congressperson going to bat for corporations and making millions of dollars off.
Yeah,
of that.
when they have all this stock in a corporation or joint with this
that's a much
corporation,
larger
they make the law. Yeah.
I don't
That's
think it's a
what I'm
much
saying.
larger conflict of interest. You're definitely choosing favorites, but I see your point.
No, I don't care which congressperson it is. If they're making money off of insider trading or even
That's a different thing, though. Insider trading is a different thing from and I know that you know this, Grid. So stop acting stupid.
Well, all right, even if it's
can't sue
getting
the
military
IRS either.
bases in their area, right? Like even if it's like, and this is the one that like used to be a big East Coast thing. I'm tired. I'm lacking the fucking state, but I think it was maybe Virginia. They were going to move like a shipyard or some shit, or maybe it was Chesapeake. It doesn't matter. And like the entire reason that they ended up voting in their Congress people was on the idea that they were going to go to bat and keep those military contracts. And that
happens all the time.
This is all whataboutism.
But it happened. It didn't. What about it?
No. So the question is then,
history
where
can't be a
were
lot
you
about
when
it.
that was all going on? It's only when it's something that doesn't help you when you're.
I don't give a
married.
fuck if you think that I'm obligated to address every conflict of interest that
That's
happens.
not what I said.
Where was I? I was nowhere. I'm indifferent to it.
Okay,
Sort of like
that is precisely the point. And so if you can be indifferent to that, and there's people who are actively saying, yes, this is what we want, this is what we voted for, then.
So where were you every time anybody else was slightly hypocritical in their application of their opinions?
Anytime I've seen it, I've covered it. Check the channel out. Indian Jesus live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Indian Jesus.
You have better hair than
what
me.
Jesus is in the internet, I swear.
I don't think I've seen the Indian Jesus before. Maybe I'm just not on here.
That's
late
a new one. I've seen the Mexican Jesus or two.
I think I'm normally in bed by now.
So I guess just a question to throw out there then, I guess, for whoever wants to grab onto it. I was going to ask it earlier, but let's say that I grant that the original statement of Doge was just a dirty political lie, right? Like they came in, they stated what they were going to do, and then they fell short.
Okay.
If they do save like $60 billion at the end of the day, would that not be a good thing? Or It's a moral question. Is it?
I'd be
opposed to
it just depends on
how
where
it's
they
what-
save it and what the potential negative effects are, right? Because if they're saving money by cutting USAID programs that I mentioned earlier, some of those things I think are really morally good, then I'm going to have an issue with it. And
at what cost?
You would agree that like cutting all the money that we spend on the military would be bad for national security, right? But we can save a lot of money.
No. That's the first place those would have went if they were serious. They'd have went.
No,
there.
I'm not
Okay,
saying.
spend
I'm
it.
saying all the money. And this is I'm doing a reductio
yeah.
for who
Okay,
I think it was Mo who asked that by process of elimination. But you would agree that like getting rid of national security and cutting all funding to the military would be bad, right?
Well,
Even though
that's
we
an
save a ton of
extreme.
money.
All versus some is two different things.
But no, this is a reductio.
savings.
But
I'll
so
engage the
point is,
hypothetical. Cutting all of it would be bad. I'll grant you that. Yes.
and so it's at least fundamentally possible that cutting a certain amount of money just to save money is bad. You have to cut money strategically.
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
And
I have nothing.
our problem with Doge is that the strategy is, and I'm just saying this because as a leftist, I do see this, and I see repeating history in this. It seems that the strategy is a soft coup, not actually making a more robust government.
But I guess the nature of my question was: let's assume that
It actually
it
does.
was good. It was actually good cuts. It was actual waste. Would you have any?
Oh, I missed that part to begin with.
nobody fundamentally disagrees with the mission of getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. No, I don't think you're going to find basically anyone who
That's-
disagrees with that.
That's
being
propaganda
good.
talking points that mean nothing, though, right? Well, that's just to sell something.
The majority of, I was just looking at some of the data. The majority of the cut comes from like contracts being cut and grants, right? So there was a gentleman on here earlier that made the point about no one's going to come in and get fired because they're just going to rename the title and move people around, which I have seen that in higher, like we've seen examples of that in higher ups. There was some that changed their title like preemptively almost to like get out of like DEI for instance.
That
right?
gentleman is over you right now, by the way.
Oh, okay, great. So
And so this is
that, but so
oh,
that
sorry,
really, so yeah, I was just going to make the point that that doesn't really seem to be the bulk of where the quoted savings are coming from. It seems to be
I
coming-
see people crying on the internet all the time about losing their jobs, so they're definitely cutting jobs.
Sure,
Yeah,
but
this
that's
is why
anecdotal evidence,
yeah,
right? That's not taking into consideration the whole. That's just people crying. People are always going to cry, right? You would agree with that?
Well, I
mean,
was just
what he's saying is that there are
no
people
one
losing
was
their
leaving
Where do
their
people
job.
cry? Do people cry when we invaded Iraq? Do people cry when we had the housing market collapse?
Okay, those are kind of different
Crying,
issues.
it's okay.
That's just whataboutism.
So
The government
no,
doesn't
this-
exist. The government doesn't.
Hold on, one at a time, please.
Yeah,
This
let
is
Sherlock Holmes
why
continue his
it's
line there.
Yeah, fucking cuck.
Can we
This
just can we agree though that the proof is in the pudding and that they are obviously not making targeted intelligent cuts when they have to go back and rehire people in multiple instances?
I like it.
Because they cut.
Would you say
people
that
who
that
are actually
is
necessary?
the overwhelming majority of their cuts, or was that only a fraction of their cuts that they had to do that with?
But it's happening though. If your
No.
argument is that they're coming in there with a scalpel,
Yeah.
Do
and
you
they're cutting
acknowledge
people
that?
who like are necessary for like nuclear weapon safety? Like an
Do
egregious
you really
error
think
that bad?
like our entire nuclear structure safety hinges on?
I'm not
couple
making a
people?
maximalist argument, so stop trying to say that I am. I know right wingers have this problem with always turning arguments into maximalist
Who
arguments.
said I'm a
not
right-winger?
saying that.
Did you agree that
Well, you
most of
sound like
Doge's cuts are
We
effective?
sound like
Did
you're
I hear
talking
you
about,
say
but I didn't
that?
point that out. Go on.
You didn't say it outright, but Effigy, did you say that? Do you agree that most of Doge's cuts have been effective, and it's just a few that are going astray?
No, I think Doge's cuts are mostly arbitrary to the point of being partisan.
Okay,
Like
I agree.
I think they're going after specific programs in a lot of cases that they simply don't like. They're
Clearly.
classifying entire things that the left have gone
Exactly.
after to push as labeling as fraud, abuse, or whatever.
Yes, whoever was debating, that should have been your argument. Whoever was up
Who's
there debating.
damn, he moved. Who's the guy with the pipe? That gentleman is smoking on my pipe. Obviously, I should have it.
That is
I
a
serve
that
it
is
more
a
than you.
Clark's
sir.
favorite, my man. That is a
Says
Clark's
First of all,
IQ.
Joe,
So
First of
fine.
all,
Yeah.
Joe, there's many ways to skin a cat. I was going to ask some more follow-up questions, such
Well, a cat or a fox, whichever.
as okay, that's just graphic. So would you let me paint a scenario here, and I would say it is a parallel. The CEO of Walmart becomes president, and to some degree, it's almost clearly stated. You have to read a little bit between the lines, but it's almost clearly stated that he just doesn't like how hard it is to conduct private business within the government because they have so many regulations. Do you think it's fair to assume that somebody who has demonstrated that they operate on the profit motive under capitalism, which as capitalism is, it is a profit motive, that they may be doing that job to seek a further profit motive? Do you think that's a plausible argument?
You mean, are you saying, does crony capitalism exist? Yes, of course it does. That's what you're describing. That's the system we have now.
So how is what Trump and Elon are doing not crony capitalism?
Well, so Elon is losing money doing what he is doing. He is not grifting and gaining wealth. He's risking a ton. He was at the top, right? He was the world's richest man, and he's basically putting himself in a position of exposure politically and alienating a large market share of people who would ordinarily buy the product.
That happened
he's
later.
not benefiting from this.
That's not true.
Benefiting is bad
As
faith.
soon as he wasn't benefiting,
Wait. Are you aware that all of his companies, Tesla, his space corporation, all of them were being investigated. All of those people just happened to get fired under Doge. All of those investigations went away.
Get him, Joe.
Good. That's government. They should fire the rest of the people doing investigations so they stop harassing other people too. That's a good idea.
But you would admit that if that's true, he would be benefiting, though, right?
I agree.
You would admit that if it's true, your argument about him not benefiting would be wrong, though. Assume it was. I don't know it to be true. Assume it was true.
So government investigations don't mean squat. They've investigated tons of people for political reasons.
That's MAGA support right there.
So that's great, but like you would agree he would still be benefiting from those investigations going away, right?
I was making a financial benefit argument and not a fake investigation argument. We can go down the fake investigation argument if you want to.
The investigations would cost him money.
Still. Yeah.
Okay. The amount of money that the investigations would cost him is minuscule compared to the market share of all of the libtards in California who would have bought his electric vehicles had he shut his mouth and kept towing the line that he was doing.
As soon as that stuff happened, he said, "I'm stepping away from Doge and I'm going back to Tesla." Like he literally, as soon as that happened, and also as soon as he didn't get his way with the tariffs that Trump did, which also, had a negative effect on the stock market.
So are you saying that he didn't damage himself by sticking his neck out politically? Are you trying to make? You're making my argument for me by admitting that he did damage himself, right?
No, but as soon as he did, he wasn't willing to stick through it or anything. He announced that he was going back to Tesla, and I also think because I think Elon said that he was trying to convince Trump to not go full scale on the trade war thing, and he failed in doing that, which I don't know if he expected to fail in doing that.
And K2 Keep On Trucking says there's more volume coming in the USA from Canada. Kick Mill for 5. And next in line is Grumple Stiltskin. Then also I have Darth Grumpy Dad hanging backstage. And then next in line from there would be Flow State. You know what to do.
Hey, Grumpy.
Hey, sexy trousers.
Yeah. Hey.
I figured Grid was leaving, so you got to have a token like "I hate the IRS" and personal income taxes shouldn't be a thing guy on the panel. So,
I agree. Grid is a typical small business owner. I just want to point that out for the folks that are in the chat that small business owners, of course, because they have to pay taxes, they're always going to complain about taxes. And then, it's on to the next thing, right? It's like ice cream. If someone else has a bigger ice cream bowl than you,
is there a department of taking part of your ice cream?
Wrong, but you don't plan.
Did Doom fall out and somebody had? What happened over there to laugh?
Although the tomato's looking pretty spicy there. That's
I
nice.
think you got attacked by a rabbit raccoon or something.
Strong ass leg.
Tomato never skips.
I might need a minute.
That.
That's like Chun-Li plus like the green M&M mush into a tomato right there.
Serious, bro. Like I like those legs.
Chun-Li thighs right there, y'all. That's crazy.
I'm sorry. I was wanting to point out that duck only plans for 24 hours. Anything past 24 hours doesn't exist as far as duck's concerned. So keep that
is
in mind.
Clearly a lot lizard tomato, Sasquatch. That is clearly lot lizard.
That is just my type of tomato. Do you see?
That's 3:30 in the morning in the back of the hotel. That's what you see.
I don't care if it's last call out the bar, bro. That is a nice tomato.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to kind of throw some to the previous statement about him being a business owner. Wouldn't business owners be more in touch with having employees, hiring? Wouldn't small business owners be more in touch with how crazy and crappy taxes are?
That's a great question.
I like that.
That's a great question. So small businesses in the United States have such a low barrier to entry. And that's why we have so many great small business owners in the United States, because almost anyone can start a business. But it's like anything else. It's, you're going to find people who are business savvy, but they're not all expert marketers. They're not all accountants. They're not all they're not all proficient at finance, which is different from accounting. So there's a lot of factors to consider. But
that's why most businesses fail, right? So when you have someone who has a successful business like Grid, you might want to listen to what he has to say.
Is why most businesses fail.
As a really quick
item, I would understand listening to Grid when it comes to like.
No offense.
Just one moment. Nonfon. There's a lot of companies out there that help people register LLCs, and you got to figure out what you want to register. But there are a lot of them out there under $500 in most states. If you got an idea or you want to do like corp to corp contracting or whatever, it's not that difficult to start a business. Like to just register one. It's very not. I just
but that's not
I got to preach that
starting a
for
business.
PSA out there. I'm sorry, Nonfon. Please.
And William says to send back the other tomato. I'm assuming that's the
lot lizard, right?
Thick-thighed lot lizard tomato to the back, and then also rude mud crab choosing to pull up powder dusty. Or wait, and then I also have, but I need Flo for you to pick another person that's getting booted, because Rude said you could boot somebody.
Flo has power. Watch out.
Oh no.
Can you drop it down so I can see the names of everybody?
Like you don't know who these people are.
Let's
I can
see.
forgive that.
Who's off limits?
Everybody's open.
Yep.
Okay. God damn it! Give me Dragon Rage.
He just got here.
I know, but his camera's off.
Hello.
And
I was hoping he
Joe-
got mail for Dragon Rage. That would have pissed him off. I was hoping mail popped up. Hello.
I would.
Good evening. You're also a grump, I see.
Who's
I do want to answer Mo Rebuttal's thing from a little bit ago by now. I can totally understand like listening to small businesses when it comes to like, maybe how annoying it is to fill out their taxes or whatever, and listening to people like Grid when it comes to like business advice.
Well, more than that,
I think
employees, healthcare.
Well, sure. I think
a
Dr.
long
just
list
like,
of things you have to go through.
the domain knowledge is relevant,
Benefits.
right? So like, it's
Benefits.
perfectly fine to like talk to Grid about how. It's perfectly
Never mind
fine to talk
paying
to Grid
them,
about
just
how.
filling out the
Why are you
taxes.
talking over each
It's
other?
perfectly fine to
Jesus
talk to Grid about like
God.
how annoying it is to fill out taxes, and then like maybe discuss what's a more efficient way to implement a tax system, which is a DBCFT, by the way. But like, I'm not going to trust. I don't intrinsically trust small business owners on like general macroeconomics. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, the small business owner says we should go back to the fucking gold standard. Therefore,
All right, I dig it.
A lot of people don't trust non-elected politicians that have no interest in making business.
Large businesses have entire compliance departments, right? There's industries built around filling out forms, so you minimize it, but it's a huge inefficiency economically.
Well, yeah, and that's
And
why large businesses are okay with a lot of these regulations, right? Because if it creates a monopoly, they're allowed to expand and grow, and it makes it harder for the lower, smaller businesses to actually rise up and challenge them. We see this with all kind of companies. We've seen this time and time again. So,
more regulation, it just makes it harder for the smaller business, because
that's
exactly
why
what
I'm definitely
Grumpy Mo. We got more grumps going on. Fully endorse it.
It's called a barrier to
grumpy. There's
entry.
so much regulation. I'm sick and tired of it. This is bullshit.
I'm an abundance liberal. Like, I'm all for making the state more efficient and making markets more competitive.
Right. You guys make good arguments, but whenever you guys get in power, or at least your side that you're arguing for gets in power, they never actually do that, right? So what we're seeing right now is not Doge doing what you're saying. We're seeing them go after things in a partisan way to try and reshape things. They're not
What have they
actually
gone
going
after
after
in a partisan
inefficiency.
way? Can you give me some examples?
I mean, you have to assume that that's correct. Just
yeah,
sure.
well, let's just grant
it was
that's
a
correct.
claim.
But I just want to hear his examples. Just let's grant that's correct. They're doing it. What's
He made a claim, so something.
Gentlemen, there has been a request.
So I would like to engage though with Effigy just for that last question a little bit more. So can you give me some examples that I can go like look up that kind of basically proves that they're doing it in a bipartisan way to benefit them or be shady?
He said partisan, not bipartisan.
Oh, okay, partisan way.
DEI programs, right?
What about
Would you say that the right is attacking DEI programs simply because they are left-wing ideas?
No, I would say they're attacking them because they're toxic.
Don't you think they've made an economic argument against saying like, well, we're not getting the best in places because DEI is putting people who shouldn't be allowed to be in these positions?
So
it is an economic argument they're making, and it is part of.
You're making a false. I'm sorry, Mo. It's yours, man. But
no, go ahead. Go engage with it.
It's built on a really like a really wobbly step ladder. If I could make that as an assertion, you're saying that people who shouldn't be in those places versus that are the best qualified. It's about meritocracy versus, hey, do the exact opposite of what Martin Luther King said. You know, the content of your character, the quality of what you're doing. No, it's because of your skin color. That's why you got the job. That puts
that's
everybody
kind of initiative saying that what you're saying is
that makes everybody, and it's bad for the entire environment because that makes everybody who isn't straight white male, I guess, suspect of being DEI. So it undermines them.
So, well, actually, I would even go a little further than that. Let's say I just grant you, okay, yeah, that's a partisan thing he's going after, right? DEI, left likes it, right doesn't, right? Let's just say I grant you that. So, isn't that what every administration does when they get in and they want to like start cutting things? They go after the things they don't like. When the Democrats get in and they start cutting things that they don't like from Republicans, are you gonna?
You can argue that to an extent, but you cannot say that it is a historical precedent for people to gut the government based on what previous presidents did.
To be fair, though, are you personally going to wave the banner when it comes down to the Democrats and they start cutting things in a partisan way? Are you going to be there day one and say this is bullshit?
Are Democrats known for getting into power and gutting cutting lots of things? Is that what they're known for? Do they do that? I thought y'all's biggest critique of Democrats is that they didn't do that. So it seems like a weird hypothetical
goes after it. That's not what I said. Each party goes, and I'm just saying each party goes after the things they don't like. That's why they get rid of it, right?
I would say that one party likes to go after the other, and the other party likes to put in things that are for their own ideas. Like the Democrats are not known for getting into government and like going like we have to excise every right wing idea from the government. That's a kind of y'all thing.
You just listed one or two.
Well, look. So the difference would be in the process and procedure. So I'm not a super big Doge debater dude. Like I defer to Rinrold usually, who was here earlier. But the claim that he would make, and I think it's probably true, but I haven't done a lot of the reading myself, is that when Democrats like cut things they don't like, usually they're going through Congress to cut these things. They write up a bill and do that or whatever. And it seems like Doge is just doing a lot of these things through the executive branch with questionable legal authority, which is why we've seen these lawsuits, some of which Doge has.
You haven't
not really lost yet, but has
directly into what they're actually cutting. They're cutting things that are under the power of the executive branch, largely.
Well, so again, I haven't done a lot of reading on this myself. But my understanding is, there's already been lawsuits about, questioning whether they do really have the authority.
Dude, I can bring up a lawsuit on you for wearing that dopey shirt. That doesn't make it valid.
Right, but there's also already been temporary restraining orders and other state. That's why they've had to keep some
really
of these people.
quickly.
They've had to rehire people already because of
the point of the lawsuit is that they took an agency whose entire point was to upgrade technology, and then they're turning it into a budgeting, cost cutting thing.
That is one of them.
That they're trying to create an agency without actually doing what you have to do to create an agency, which is pass a fucking law.
No, sir, that's not true. The Department of Education
kind of irrelevant because the president can just fire people, and
most of your administrative agencies were created through executive orders. So the executive branch has almost full control over them unless they've been compartmentalized. Compartmentalized by Congress through action.
You got it. You good?
Okay, so does anyone here disagree with the notion?
I may be wrong on that. I'll check.
Does anyone here disagree with the notion that we need regulation on markets to prevent, things like some of the issues with capitalism spiraling out of control, such as hegemony and monopolies and stuff like that?
I do.
Can we clarify something real quick? How many people on panel are communists?
Businesses, they can't become monopolies. It's when businesses and the government get tied together that monopolies get created.
I don't think that's always
How many people are communists here?
Seems
about.
I have a story about being a
plausible that there
communist,
are
but I'm not actually a
companies.
communist.
I want to hear what Nonfon was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, like again, I'm an abundance neoliberal dog. Okay, so I don't like entirely disagree with you that it can happen, but it does seem to be like it entirely seems plausible to me that like there are cases where a company could exercise monopoly power not because of the government, but just because they, you know, have so much market power. I think even to an extent, Amazon might fit that, and I also think that you know, even without strict monopoly, there's obviously cases of monopsony where a few companies are in control of things.
So my point is though, is it just Darth Grumpy Dad who thinks that we need zero regulations?
I
didn't hear him say that.
It's not that I believe we need zero regulations. I believe we need more detachment from the government and our businesses. They shouldn't interact at the level they do. They're
so then
like
you're anti-Trump, right? Because Trump is merging the private interests and the state.
Why are you telling him what he's thinking? Stop that.
That's
Well, it doesn't make sense any other way because
you're just interpreting what you hear in a way you find most beneficial.
The most visceral manifestation of that possible is a
You're
rich.
trying to create a false dichotomy here. That
Is
if
a
you
rich
believe
person-
this, you must believe that. If you don't believe this, you have to believe that. And that's just fallacious thought.
Well, this is why I brought up the Walmart CEO becoming president for the same reasons. We have a rich person also working with someone who does own businesses to undermine regulations in the government, which prevent things like corporations that can take over stuff. Now, I'll agree with you. Some of these regulations are great, but then that becomes a question of how we implement these regulations and who they target rather than necessarily not having regulations.
Can I get at Nonfon a little bit, please? Hi.
Sure.
So
get in there.
Are you live, Nonfon?
Are you I haven't talked to you directly, but once before, and it wasn't for long. But have you? Are you still in college?
Yeah.
Are you still living like dorm life or home life?
I live at home right now. So
home as in parents or home as in your personal house? Okay.
Home as in parents' home. Yeah.
Okay. I have no issue with this. I'm merely trying to gather information. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not coming at you. So
as long as you can.
This is the difference
It just started to
between
rain here. I got to be right back. All the tools in the yard.
I don't know.
This is a situation where you're dealing with someone who has a whole lot of information that has been gathered by other people and not a whole lot of experience in the subjects that he's speaking on. And that's why him and Grid One have such an oppositional view on this. Is Grid One didn't go to college and learn all the stuff that you've learned and get all the data that you've got and the ease with which you can like interact with the whole infosphere, as it were. He went out and like bloodied his nose against the wall of progress to try to make a freaking thing happen. And while he might have had a shoe up in it, he did it like quite physically. And you're sitting there in your parents' house talking about data that you've acquired through internet searches and talking to your professors. And I dig it. I totally dig it, Bert. But is there possible that you have misconstrued the circumstances based off of the lack of reality surrounding data? It is data, and the way you tabulate it matters. And if even unintended consequences take place in that case. So is it possible that you've made a wrong assumption somewhere?
Data on what? Like I'm gonna have degrees in confidence everywhere. It's obviously possible, especially in areas where I haven't read like a ton on that I don't have a perfect understanding of it. It's obviously possible. The fact that I'd be willing to spend money that at least one of the beliefs I have is false, and I think that's true of like literally everyone.
Sure. Aren't you an econ major though? Are you an econ major?
So right now I just go to community college and eventually I'll transfer to a bigger college to get my econ.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I think higher
Really quick,
education.
though, that's an appeal to personal experience fallacy. Just want to throw that out.
But yeah, but like
I'm
here's the thing is that usually when I'm talking to people, even people like, no offense, Grid, it's like when I'm having a conversation with him about, for example, tariffs, and it's like, oh, yeah, I understand like he's a business owner and has more personal experience or whatever. But it's like for any argument that I make regarding tariffs or regarding government spending, it's like, I have like a plausible model that like economists can agree upon, and then I have like empirical evidence that supports this model holding true in reality. And it's just like usually Grid just doesn't. I'm picking on Grid because it is the last person I talk about this. But usually a lot of these people just don't have the same thing. They just got to have vibes, and it's like, okay.
Well, all I'm getting at is that you're doing something that I do in some fields, right? I'm not an expert on everything. Flow states, Powdered Dusty specifically says I'm AI. And all it is that I've read encyclopedias and I have a high level of memory retention. Nerd. Even if I apply it to anything, I'm a total nerd. That's true. Right. But I see a commonality between me and you. The difference is you went on to specialize in the nerdy part of what you like to nerd out about. I got huge thumbs up for it. I love it. But that nerdy part that you like to nerd out about also has an applicable side that has people who have years of experience doing exactly the thing that you've read about, that you've studied, that you've looked at the data and you've thought about, right? And discounting these people's conversations or their talking points just on the basis of being an oppositional, idealistic, I could accept it. But just trying to lay it down as if you're smarter than they are, that's kind of weird, dude. They just know different stuff.
So again, I totally agree with you. Like I've talked to like 3 or 4 different business owners about tariffs, and I'll say, I guarantee you they are way better business owners than I am. Like they probably know more about a lot of like microeconomics than I do. But there's plenty of business owners where I've asked them, what are the 4 components of GDP, which is a question any high school econ student can answer, and they don't know the 4 components of GDP. And it's like, well, clearly, like on some of this stuff, like I just know more than you, buddy. And again, like I can present to you.
Nonfon, you're asking like a test question. I mean, some might say, but like just on the spot right here, I can ask you a specialized question too. Like, what does the Baltic Dry Index tell you?
Well, I don't know, but it's not necessarily related to whatever we're talking about. What GDP? Knowing the 4 components
tell how the economy is doing
is a decent indicator of how much macroeconomics you know. Like that is an okay indicator.
What the fuck is the Baltic whatever index? Grumpo.
The Baltic Dry Index.
What the fuck is that?
If you look up Fred charts, it's one of them.
I
use that as a really good indicator for how good the economy is doing, honestly.
Yeah, sorry, just
Gentlemen, I'm just gonna go step away and make a sandwich. Can we all get along?
I actually have to go too. Baby's calling. That's my time. I appreciate the time. See you guys later.
If you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to Nonfon420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.